This is an interesting camera. In 2025, great image and colour are table stakes, even at this price point. With Nikon's recent Red acquisition, it's safe to say that expectations on image quality in the ZR are sky high. What's not quite as clear though, is what this camera is actually like to own and operate. Nikon's made a bold gambit with the ZR's features and ergonomics, but are they executed well enough to be more than just gimmicks? Let's find out. For context, I already have a decent selection of professional tools. My A-cam for commercial work is usually my Red Komodo X, but I've also got a Sony FX6 which I'm recording on now, and also an A7S III. The ZR, for me, was always meant as a C or D camera, something I can throw in a bag for location scouts, for YouTube content in the field, and for easy and also inconspicuous B-roll capture, without building and deploying an entire rig. If it earns a role on paid work in some capacity, great, but today I'm mostly judging it on usability. And if the ZR can genuinely reduce some of the pain points of working with more specialist professional cameras like the Komodo X, while also maintaining a decent image, could it ever stand in as my A-cam? In the sub $5,000 camera bracket, image quality is broadly excellent. Colour science across brands is now really mature, Nikon included. At around $2,500, or £2,200, which is what I paid, it's reasonable to expect the ZR to be on par with its peers. Yes, there's chatter about H.265 being a touch soft. I've only looked briefly and haven't used it professionally, but early impressions are that the colour is perfectly workable, whichever codec you find best suits your needs or use case. The different codecs do vary a little from one to the other though, colour-wise, so I don't think I'll be hopping from, say, ProRes to NRAW very often. I'll include some footage from the varying codecs now so you can see what I mean. I think, though, that the real story with this camera isn't pixels, it's features. They have a much bigger impact on workflow than which colour science you prefer, which is R3D NE, obviously. 32-bit float in camera? As far as I'm aware, this is the first proper implementation of 32-bit float audio in a hybrid body, usable with the onboard mics. They're still onboard camera mics, so they're not going to perform miracles, but the headroom lowers stress when you're working solo, and directional pickup helps a lot. It's not going to replace proper sound, but as scratch, it's a real step up, and crucially, it keeps the kit light. An added strength is that the 32-bit float isn't limited to the camera's mics, it'll float whatever you plug into the mic port. I haven't got as far as audio testing in any meaningful way yet, but I will do soon. The 4-inch screen. This is the big one, literally. I'm not one for hyperbole, and the phrase game changer is so overused on YouTube that it's basically lost all meaning and credibility. But the screen is big, and critically, the screen is bright. You can genuinely work off of it. Most built-in screens are fine in a pinch. They're not what you want to judge focus and exposure on all day though. This one gets you close enough that you can comfortably leave the external monitor at home, and that transforms how you can use the camera. The moment you bolt on a monitor and a decent size MPF, a camera becomes an entirely different product. Weight, balance, how you interact with the UI, all of it shifts. Here, the camera's the thing in your hand and nothing else, and that's a very good thing. But the screen specs aren't the full story. The screen elevates monitoring, no doubt, but the exposure tools are a little lacking. Zebras and a histogram are there, and there's also a waveform. However, there's no false colour, and when shooting raw video, you really need to understand how much light is hitting the sensor. Coming from Red's DSMC3 system, namely the Komodo X, the inclusion of the R3D NE flavour of RAW, but the absence of the beloved traffic light clipping indicators is a glaring omission. The traffic lights are fantastic and a very glanceable way to see if the image is clipping the highs or lows, and if so, by how much. They're fast, legible, and near foolproof in mixed light. I can for sure make do with zebras and histogram and view assist, but I really hope there's something that's possible for Nikon to add with a firmware update, along with false colour. That kind of addition would really unlock the full value of the beautiful 4-inch display. Without, for professional use, you might have to consider using an external monitor, which kind of defeats the point, right? There's some good news though. Not only does Nikon have a really great track record with updating features and functionality via firmware releases, but they've also very publicly hinted to expect them sooner rather than later for the ZR. Alongside the screen, Z-mount adaptability is a genuine superpower. With smart adapters, in my case the Megadapt Z to E mount, and options for all manner of other mounts, prospective ZR owners can invest in a camera without having to invest in an entirely new selection of lenses as well. That's a huge deal if, like a lot of people, you've invested in video first capture, you're pretty likely to be invested heavily in another ecosystem, such as Sony's E mount or L mount. Being able to just buy the body, free of tie so to speak, and to keep using the lenses you already own, removes an enormous barrier, It dramatically lowers the switching cost and makes the risk return on investment on the ZR very attractive, especially if you're considering it as an additional rather than the only camera in your kit. I'm lucky enough to have some pretty nice Sony E-mount lenses, but I think this is a really good excuse to add one I've had my eye on. With the Megadapt Z to E adapter, you get almost native glass-like functionality from competitor glass like Sony. It's extraordinary. Autofocus behaves entirely as expected, seamless aperture control, stabilization that plays nicely, and lens metadata pass-through. I'll link the exact Megadapt model in the description. The lens I've ordered, by the way, is the Sony 16-25G f2.8. Sony really remains the market leader in terms of its mirrorless lens range. It's got a breadth and performance that's hard to beat. That focal range, 16-25mm, doesn't really have a Nikon equivalent. I think it's going to fit the ZR's body really nicely. It's wide enough for walk and talks as well as interiors, and compact and light enough to keep the package small. It's not the only essential accessory for this camera though. This camera that I'm heaping praise on for not needing accessories. A huge ergonomics upgrade is the small rig half cage, also linked in the description. The Bear ZR is compact but a little slick in the hand. The half cage gives the body much needed purchase for hands of all sizes. It feels much more secure for longer walk and talks, one-handed shooting, without turning the camera into a big rig. It preserves the body-only ethos while adding just enough structure to improve handling and confidence. Plus it has an Arca Swift plate built into the base. I've also got the small rig full cage for those moments I do need more mounting options. Part of the appeal of this camera is it being quite small. It should encourage creative placement and rigging when a project requires it. At announcement, there was a lot of pearl clutching about the grip-mounted battery door, the single primary card slot, and a micro HDMI connection. For how I intend to use the camera, that all seemed a bit like a storm in a teacup. The single main card slot doesn't bother me one bit. My Komodo X has a single main card slot, and no one beats up on that. The ZR even adds to that. It's got a micro SD card as a small bonus, which in a narrow sense makes it more flexible. The battery door works fine on a tripod plate. You can open it and swap a battery without drama. Kofi Yubo did a great demo of this. While micro HDMI isn't my favourite connector by any means, granted, this camera, more than any other, the whole objective is to get away without running an external monitor. That's the point of the 4-inch screen, right? If your workflow needs full-size HDMI or a recorder-centric rigs, this probably isn't the camera for you. And so, framed against its actual category, which in my mind is called compact full-frame mirrorless, do these I/O quirks even really matter? If you want the between-episode clips, the tests, the little discoveries, the setups that never make it into a full video, I post them over on my Instagram, Jack Filmed. It's the quickest way to stay current, and also the best route to see how this camera actually performs in real life, in between uploads. One thing worth mentioning though, the menus. Menu logic slowed me down a bunch at first. It took the best part of an entire afternoon to find and enable Nlog. I live in a Sony and Red menu world most of the time, but if I need to, I can pick up a Canon or a Blackmagic or probably even an Arri and pretty easily find my way around. Even Sony, which has a reputation for being a bit fussy when it comes to its menus, feels pretty intuitive pretty quickly. Nikon's discovery path felt clunky AF. Once set, and once you assign custom buttons and build a My Menu, it does improve, but if you're crossing brands, pencil in a bunch of time to build your shortcuts and just work out what's what. I'm not really comparing the ZR to the Komodo X. Different tools, different jobs. But if I were to draw an immediate and practical contrast, it would be boot time. The ZR is roughly a second or so. The Komodo X is closer to 25 seconds from cold. In run and gun work, that delta really matters. The faster your camera wakes, the more likely you are to actually get the moment, rather than watch it go by while the loading screen ticks away. It also reinforces this body-only idea. You pick it up and it's live, ready to go. I'll keep poking at H.265 to see if the softness chatter shows up, but broadly, the trade-offs are familiar. H.264 and H.265 or HEVC will be smaller, though possibly heavier to edit. ProRes is a much larger but very edit-friendly format, and RAW gives the most flexibility, but also some pretty chunky data rates. I've not really had too much chance to actually use the camera yet. As of recording this, I've had it for about 52 hours. However, based on my preliminary testing, I think the sweet spot for my needs in terms of recording format might be R3D NA, but shot at 4K resolution rather than pushing the full 6K. The quality is strong but really flexible, the files will be leaner, and the workflow stays quick, and it's something that I'm extremely familiar with. Translating that mentality here, I suspect that all of the ZR's 4K-centric options will be the best middle ground for most of what people actually need this camera to do. Enough resolution, but much saner file sizes. Not too much fear of absolutely blitzing through 1TB cards. I'll report back more fully though once I've used the camera a bunch more. If you value speed to shot and body-only operation, the ZR is pretty compelling. If your priority is redundancy, recording, robust I/O, professional cine workflows, or full-size HDMI, you'll really need to look elsewhere. For my needs, the ZR fills a very specific gap I had. A compact creator body I can speak to in the field, grab decent B-roll with, and not feel like I need to run an additional on-camera monitor just to be able to see what I'm shooting. This camera is very much Nikon's entry-level offering, the first in what's likely going to be a range of video-first cameras. And for a first attempt, it's pretty good. And it should be. They bought the expertise of Red, and with its aggressively competitive price point, I can see this having a huge appeal. To me though, it doesn't really make a convincing A-cam contender, not for professional use, and nor should it for you. If you take video seriously, you either need or will need a bunch of things that this camera just doesn't have. SDI out, timecode, Genlock, more robust exposure tools. These are features that professionals rely on. If you need a video-centric camera that's a great fit for more casual use though, this thing's up there with the best. So I just want to summarise my first impressions of what's turned out to be an enormously anticipated camera. Image quality, even at this price, is effectively table stakes. The 4-inch screen and the in-camera 32-bit float are the real story here. They meaningfully reduce the need for accessories and make the camera genuinely usable for video out of the box. The exposure tools are the frustration though. I'd love to see proper false colour and red-style traffic lights implemented via firmware in the near future. The I/O complaints are a bit overblown for my use case. With the Megadap Z/E adapter, my Sony lenses feel nearly native, and I've just got the Sony 16-25 on order, because Sony still leads in the mirrorless lens space. The small rig half cage adds the purchase the body needs without killing the compact idea. Thanks to Z-mount's adaptability, you can buy the body without also having to buy into the Nikon lens ecosystem, which makes the risk and return on investment very attractive. The ZR is no substitute for an actual cine camera. The inclusion of Red RAW and Nikon's insistence on referring to it as a cinema camera sets impossibly high standards to compare this camera against. If you strip away the marketing guff though and judge it on its merits in its proper lane, as a compact creator C or D camera, its innovations to form and function are hugely impressive and genuinely useful. This initial review has been a bit of a rush job. It's my first experience of being a YouTube creator on the front lines of an important product release, so I hope I've managed to make at least a little bit of sense. If there's something specific you want me to try, bearing in mind I'm no Gerald Undone, tell me in the comments and I'll do my best. Links to the Megadap adapter and the small rig half cage are in the description below. For day-to-day clips, like I mentioned, I'm on Instagram @JackFilmed, and if any of this was useful, informative, or heck, even if you just gritted your teeth and persevered this far, a like and a subscribe would be much appreciated. I'm Jack. Whatever this is, I'm calling Western Approaches, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.